Joining me now, history professor and author of Obama's America, A Transformative Vision of Our National Identity, Ian Reifowitz. Ian, good to see you.
Always good to be here, Liz.
All right, Ian, we have a lot to cover today. Let's start with this question of the day. Ian, it really does seem, and if you count, it's literal here. Every week it's something new from the left. Another reason Trump's victory wasn't legitimate. My question is, at what point does this stop, this blame game? When does it stop?
Well, you listed a number of things. First of all, you're talking about liberal rioters. I read the news reports as well. You're talking about a couple of dozen anarchists who hate liberals as much as they hate conservatives, who did some things that I condemn. Any political activity that's not completely nonviolent, I would condemn it. But to call that liberal rioters is a bit much. Jill Stein is a person who said that Hillary Clinton would be more dangerous as president than Donald Trump, so I really have no interest in defending anything she does. But
That's
if we
good
want
to hear.
well, she's no liberal. She's no liberal. But if you want to talk about political violence and political riots, really what comes to my mind is the Brooks Brothers riot in 2000, which essentially ended the Florida recount.
No, I want to talk about the blame game. I want to talk about every week. It's been 6 weeks since Trump was elected. Every week there's a different thing that that the left is blaming the loss of the election on. And it seems to me, and I want to hear this take from you, but for the past 8 years, we've heard accusations of racism anytime anyone tried to delegitimize President Obama. And suddenly it seems that those on the left, and I'm not just categorizing liberals from the Democratic Party, maybe this is even further left, maybe these are anarchists, maybe these are Jill Stein supporters, what have you. Now they feel it's appropriate to delegitimize Trump. They're the same people that made those accusations of racism when anyone tried to delegitimize Obama. Isn't that a double standard?
Well, first of all, plenty of people criticized President Obama, and some of them deserved to have the label racist thrown at them, but many of them did not. And I would argue that nobody was really stifled. Nobody held back. The slanders that went to President Obama, didn't stop at any point. But in terms of the question of going forward, look, Donald Trump has a real legitimacy problem. He lost the popular vote by what looks like going to be 3 million. 2 full percentage points. That's a larger margin than Jimmy Carter won by, a larger margin than Al Gore lost by or won by. John F. Kennedy, same thing. Donald Trump has no mandate. He did not win the support of the American people, but he's going to implement the hardest
That's the way our system of government is set up. That's the way our election process works. We have the Electoral College. I have no problem with you disagreeing with that. I mean, it's an imperfect system. Every system of mankind is imperfect here. But if you have a problem with the Electoral College, it's not something that you criticize after the person that you don't want to win wins. It's something that you change legislatively or amend the Constitution before an election, not a tool to delegitimize the person that you disagree with.
Well, Donald Trump criticized the Electoral College in 2012. He wanted to get right. So
right, and he was wrong about that.
But legitimacy is not legitimacy is not the same as authority. Donald Trump will have the legitimate constitutional authority once January 20th or so comes along. But he does not have popular legitimacy. Certainly not popular legitimacy to push through the kind of hard right agenda he's talking about. Republicans screamed in 2009 when Barack Obama won the biggest landslide in a generation, and had the votes in Congress and had the popular support to push through an agenda. That's called democracy. Trump lost.
So essentially what you're saying then is when President Obama throughout his 8 years, when his approval rating dipped below 50%, he lost that popular mandate, that popular legitimacy, because less than half of people approved of him?
I'm not saying that, but I also know that in January and February and March and throughout most of 2009, when he was pushing through the agenda, he had an approval rating well over that. But that's really irrelevant.
No, it's the same. It's the same sort of thing as what you're saying. You're saying that it's mob rule. That if at that moment more people approve of someone than disapprove of them, that he has the go-ahead to the legitimacy, the authority, whatever you want to call it, to go ahead with his agenda. But if it dips below half of the popular vote, half of people's opinions, that there's no legitimacy. How's that different?
You're a skilled debater, Liz, but you're talking about popular vote versus the election on election day. That's the one that counts. If the election had been held on October 27th before James Comey violated DOJ policy, which says that you don't talk about any ongoing investigation, certainly not within 60 days of an election, if that election had been held before he made his comments, Hillary Clinton would be president right now. I don't think there's any question about that. So it's not about popular support in any given moment. It's on election day. It's the votes that were cast.
I mean, on election day, Donald Trump won the presidency, fair and square. By our system of elections, Donald Trump won. So that's it then.
That's right. He is going to be the president of the United States. But popular legitimacy, the legitimacy that is required to change radically the direction of the country, is something that he does not have. That's why we talk about a mandate, right? In 2004, Karl Rove talked about a mandate. Every election we hear about mandates. Donald Trump does not have a mandate to push through the kinds of changes that he says, and especially that Paul Ryan says that they want to push through. And it's going to be very interesting to see how they're able to do it.
You know, I actually agree with you on just a tiny bit of that point. I don't like the word mandate. I think it's overused as much as the word unprecedented is overused. I don't think a president gets carte blanche to do whatever they want just because of a certain margin of victory. I actually agree with you on that. I still am on the point, though, when you look at what has happened in the last 6 weeks. First, election night, Hillary refused to concede. Then the riots in the street. It was more than dozens of people. We saw the videos. We saw the news reporting. I mean, we saw it in our own cities. A mile from where I live, there were many more than a dozen people there. Jill Stein claiming that she wanted a recount. It was rejected. She had no constitutional basis for that. Calls to delegitimize the Electoral College when it's our system of government. The fake news, even Hillary jumping on board with that. Ian, it seems like the left is just acting like sore losers.
Well, I have to disagree. This is called participating in the political system. All of that is part of democracy, with the exception of the violence that you're talking about, which, again, a couple of dozen people in a couple of places. But Hillary Clinton, if she called, whether it was 11:59 or 12:01, and it wasn't election night anymore, she did call the man and she did concede. So I think that one bit you're overplaying just a tad. But all of this is about democracy. What I'm getting concerned about more is, for example, what's going on in North Carolina, where the Republican Party lame duck legislature, lame duck governor is stripping the powers of the governor's office. Why? Because a Democrat is about to take it over. That's a much bigger threat to democracy than anything Jill Stein can do.
Right, and I suppose that's a conversation for a different day. Today, Ian, we're out of time. Thank you so much for being here. It's always great to talk to you.